gentlemen, to the Connected by Water podcast, presented, actually, I'm going to say powered by Joey Cardi Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, right, and fueled by Papa's Pilar Rum, who remind you never to be a spectator. Cheers, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today.
Papa would be proud.
Papa would be proud, indeed. I want to mention that we have the lovely Karleen with us once again.
Hey.
Welcome.
Right? And it's, you know, when episodes happen without you sitting there, it's like this void in the room that's just not, and when you're here, it's like, all right, we're home.
Well, I appreciate
So thank you for coming
Mama's
again.
here.
Mama's here. So, Justin, doing good. I want to ask you a question about goats, right? Because a good friend of ours, Tiny Walcott, was telling me a story about a goat and how you don't like them, right? Or what's the deal with the goats?
Well, there was a couple of stories with some goats in Africa, in West Africa, where Tiny and I fished together.
Okay.
And one season there, we were really bored.
So he didn't want to eat them, right, or something like that?
No. Well, we bought a couple of goats for the guys to eat that work for us. We were really bored one day, so we paid one of the kids to wrestle the goat.
That's right.
Just for something to do. And then another time there, we bought a couple of goats for the guys to eat, and then we watched the whole ceremony, how they, kill them and clean them and ate them, and
They do a ceremony?
Yeah. Just like a little
Sacrifice?
Not the sacrifice. It's more just like a little.
They do like a
they
dance
sing
in a
little-
circle
yeah,
and
they
everything?
Sing a
Really?
little chant and it's just kind of a little group thing amongst the guys, and they get around and they shave it all with a razor blade, and then they boil them and eat them. Doesn't taste very good, but that's a.
No.
African goat.
Little gamey.
So there was no glory holes involved in this?
That's a different goat story. You're confusing it with the Madeira goat story. And that's one I wasn't there for.
Wait, there's a Madeira goat story?
Yeah.
How's that go?
Well, I wasn't there for this. It was the first season when the French Look was there, and James Roberts told me this story years ago. And so I guess how that goes is they had the mothership
Here come
anchored
the
up.
police talking about goat stories. Here
They
we go.
That happens a lot during the podcast because we're right near the firehouse. So never mind the
It's
fire
emergency.
truck.
Anyway, they had the French Look anchored up in the bay there in front of Funchal, and I guess they were bored one day, so they got on there. They had a big, I guess it was like it was like a fixed sight thing they had mounted, not a telescope, but anyway, it's a really powerful. I guess it was a telescope, and they started looking around, because Madeira's beautiful big backdrop and all these houses, and they started looking at the island, through this telescope, and they're looking at all the different areas, and all of a sudden,
I remember this.
they see, briefly what looks like a guy's ass, going like this, and they kind of glance past, and they kind of go, "Did we just see something there? We should look back." And
We should look back.
yeah, this is pretty. I'll tell you the story anyway. Carly brought it up, so I'll tell it. But anyway, so they realised that
I was
there's a
only kind
guy.
of making a joke. There's apparently a story behind this, so please.
Really?
Yeah, so there's a guy, fornicating with a goat, and an old man in his backyard next to his house, and they were watching. I can't believe what we're seeing, So anyway,
Come on.
he gets done, and then the goat goes back into the yard, and he goes in his house.
Wait. He gets done. So you guys just kept watching it?
I wasn't watching it. This is a story I heard, but yes, they were quite. They couldn't really believe what they were seeing. I guess this guy really, having sex with this goat on the mountain in front of the boat right now. And yeah, he was. And then it's funny. And then they saw that, and then I guess it was a couple of days later. Obviously everybody on the boat found out about it. I guess they were all up there probably taking turns looking at it. And just for a joke, I guess about 3 or 4 days later, the chef was bored one day and said, "Oh, I guess I'll just go and have a look to Gary." And there he was again with the goat. Yeah, so it's a regular thing for him, I guess.
Guarantee.
Yeah, right.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So, Bo Jenyns, everybody. Thank you. World-class marlin angler. Very accomplished, right? Granders and records and, right? So, just for those of you listening and watching at home.
The incomparable.
Yeah, right?
Jenyns.
I am in the presence of greatness here. Like Sans goat story,
As are we.
right? Oh, thank you.
Supreme artiste.
So I appreciate you coming today.
All right.
And, we're here to solve all the world problems this afternoon over a glass or two or three of rum.
Papa's.
And I also have no stranger to the studio, Karl Anderson.
Great to be back.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
very
having
much,
us.
my friend, for coming in again and dragging Bo in here kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
Then he said rum, and they said, oh, okay, then I'll come. So.
Rum made it
Yep.
all happen,
Yeah.
as it usually does.
Mm-hmm.
Easily persuaded.
Throw the cap off of it and let her rip.
Yeah. So you just got back from the Mid-Atlantic, but you
Yeah.
gentlemen have fished all over the world. If there's a place on this planet that has big fish, chances are you guys have dragged baits over it, right? So,
Just a few more.
yeah.
But we've
Few
hit
more
a bunch
left?
Of them. Bo's hit a whole bunch of them. And yeah. Bo's hit a couple I haven't hit, and I've hit a couple he hasn't hit. So
Yeah.
kind of pans out.
All right. All
And
right.
then
So
we always talk about where's our next place we want to go. So
where haven't you hit?
I haven't fished Kona, and I always wanted to go fish Kona.
Really?
Just to do it. Yeah, just to go lure fishing for big marlin, and that's what I like to do. And always wanted to go there and fish the season somehow, or at least to put a good shot in at it.
Yeah. I mean, Tiny's there right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
He's had decent fishing too.
Yeah. He's killing it out there.
Yeah. So that's kind of one of the places. It's kind of one of those places that's an iconic place in our industry, and
I'd love to go there, too.
I would like to go do that, and just because it's a style of fishing that I like, and it's heavy tackle,
Mm-hmm.
which I really like. But I like it all, so it doesn't
Big
really.
fish over there.
Big fish.
Spearfish, too.
Big fish is a big
Yep.
thing. It's that's a big attraction for anything. It's like chasing the tunas everywhere. That's why we went to all the places to catch tunas.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a couple of places I want to go do that. It's different areas, I'd like to go to Norway. I want to go fish Norway tunas.
That'd be cool.
Caught them this summer there. They caught them, so I'd like to.
You ever been to Norway?
Oh yeah, my family's from.
I know, but I'm saying, have you been there,
Oh
though,
yeah,
right?
a lot of times.
My whole family's from Ireland. I've
A
never
lot.
been there.
I was in Ireland year before last. I went over to scout out going tuna fishing,
Yeah.
and I got out for a day with a guy, and we saw the fish. We didn't get to catch them because by 11 o'clock it was literally blowing 50 knots, and we had to go in because the port, the harbor masters puts restrictions on, and you have to be back in. But and then it was actually a hurricane that came from here and ended up on the coast of Ireland, and it blew the living bejesus. So I didn't get to fish any other days, but hopefully when all this stuff is over, we can start traveling again.
Yeah,
and
right.
Get back over there.
Right.
Great guy, great boat, and he's catching fish real well.
Yeah, that's nice. And you're
So
obviously you're from Australia, right?
Yeah.
So, and how long have you been? You live here full time now.
Yeah,
though,
I've
right?
been here for nearly 11 years this year.
So this is the question that I've had cooking my brain all day that I wanted to ask you, right? So you're a world accomplished marlin angler. Like this, that's just a fact, okay? And you fished all over the world. What brings you here?
Oh, I moved here because I got married. My wife's from here.
Ah, there you go.
Women, I tell you.
yeah,
They get you, right, Carlene?
Yep.
They get you.
Hook, line, and sinker.
just
Yep.
like a fish.
Mm-hmm. Got me on.
All right,
Just
so
like
you
big
got here,
marlin.
so you got married, and then all right, so
Moved
but
over here.
you're still traveling all over fishing.
Not as much as what I used to. I
Yeah.
used to do like charter seasons where you'd go for 3 or 4 months,
Mhm.
and I don't really want to be gone that long from home, so I usually go away for a week, couple of weeks, maybe a month, at the most. But
You-
mostly it's just tournaments, like go to a tournament,
Okay.
a couple of tournaments here and there.
Are you-
However,
Mhm.
just spent a month fishing with probably the most iconic tarpon fisherman ever, Tom Evans, in Homosassa, right? You were over there
Mhm,
for a
yeah.
month. They were record fishing
Fly
Nice.
fishing, 8-pound
for
tippet.
tarpon. Something totally out of Bo's wheelhouse, but totally capable to do.
How'd it go?
We didn't get the record. We had one on that was big enough,
Uh huh.
and we jumped off. But it was really cool. It was interesting. It was a style of fishing I'd done fly fishing for marlin with him, but never like that on the flats.
Right.
And I heard a lot about.
That's kind of different.
Oh, it's very.
Yeah, I
different.
mean, where it's more
Yeah.
like you're dropping it into the spread and and teasing it up and everything, and then the tarpon, it's more of kind of like
It's totally sight casting.
Yeah,
You're waiting
pure
for the
sight.
school to get up on the school and cast them. It's tricky. A lot of them refuse to fly, just like the marlin did.
Right,
same
right.
way. But I enjoy the challenge of trying to catch them on the floor because it's one of the hardest ways to catch them.
such a beautiful fish, man. It really, really. I mean, just the way they fight, and yeah, I mean, just the way they fight, and they arc their back like that in such power and grace, and not to mention the fact that it's not the easiest hook to
Yeah.
keep in the mouth.
No, it's
So
not.
you got to really be on point like every second of that fight. Yeah, for sure. So
Yeah.
Homosassa, nice. Just get some big tarpon over there.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, that was the spot, and it was one of the best tarpon fisheries of all time.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the numbers aren't there what they used to be like, but they still come through there occasionally. We saw a couple there one day that were like the guide said was 170, 180, like big tarpon. We didn't see any 200, but they were still big fish. And to see a fish like that in 6 foot of water,
Yeah.
crystal clear water, is pretty incredible.
What was the class and pound you were going for?
124. Is what we, no, sorry, 124. No, 127. I think 127 is what we're trying to beat.
Yeah.
So it was a hard record to beat
Yeah.
on 8 pound. You can't have any lift. You know what I mean?
Right,
And
right.
All the fish we caught, they weren't big enough, but we'd fight them for a while and we'd get them right there. And Tom would put on just a little bit more drag and it would break. So I figure with the 8 pound, you just have to get really lucky.
Yeah.
The fish would just have to give you the perfect shot.
The head's got to turn right every time,
And
and
trying
yeah.
to gaff them as well, trying to penetrate. A marlin are way easier to gaff than tarpons. Marlin skin's easier to penetrate. That
Right.
tarpon with those big scales, so and the angle of the shot, and it's not easy. I give it to all those guys that have caught those tarpon records on fly.
Mhm.
They earned them for sure.
Yeah, right.
It's
It's a tough fish, man.
Mhm.
It's a tough fish. When you get a big tarpon in the boat, you really that's an accomplishment. Yeah.
For sure.
Especially on fly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about Mid-Atlantic stuff while we're hot on
Yep.
that.
Yep.
You just got done with the Beach Haven tournament,
We did.
and we're real excited
52nd.
about that around here. The 52nd, or they got the 53rd,
Yep.
and we're real excited about that, obviously, because we're involved with the tournament now.
Yep. Glad to have you.
And
It's great.
part of the reason I'm excited about it is working with you and Dave, and it's just such a great crew up there, and they're really running that like it's a class act operation.
Yeah.
And so but I wasn't there up there this year. You were, so I want you to kind of maybe elaborate, if you could, on how that event went, and because I know that they had a lot of boats, more so than they usually have this year.
So, that's my hometown, so it's near and dear to me. It's my home club. I was a junior angler there. My father was, one of the very early members, helped to build the clubhouse, actually. So the tournament had gone through, different gyrations. It was a very successful tournament back in the day. People wanted to come to Beach Haven and fish because you were entertained, you had great food, great camaraderie. And, back in the late 70s and late 70s and 80s, it was kind of like there was the same 25, 30 boats, fishing offshore. I mean, you knew everybody when you were out. You knew what the boats they were. Not like today where there's, 87 Clorox bottles that all look the same and you're trying
Right.
to figure out who's who. The tournament had struggled a little bit. They've gone through some changes that didn't make sense. They tried a bunch of things that didn't work, and one of the guys had called and asked me, now that I'm back in Beach Haven a little bit, if I would, be on the tournament committee and all. And so we worked all through the winter, Zoom meetings and this and that, and we made a lot of good moves and had a lot of, interesting conversations.
Like what?
Just pushing to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the way to do it. This is how you need to do it.
Gotcha.
Some of the guys up there never really fished tournaments, and I fished a bunch of them all over the place,
Mhm.
internationally, nationally, whatever. And we pushed and prodded, and then we came up with this idea to have this thing called Marlin Fest and use the center of town along the bay front as our way station, much like they do at Big Rock and other places. And that it kind of like got its life of its own, and we got that going, plus making all the changes to the rules. So we made, white marlin release category, which we didn't have before, and put the money in it. We made a blue marlin count more than a tuna. It was one of the problems they did is they made it a tuna tournament, and it's the white marlin invitational.
Yeah.
And it always just was a burr under my saddle. It used to piss me off. I'm like, why is a tuna getting more money for a white marlin? This is stupid.
Right.
Anyway, so we banged that one out pretty early on.
That's a smart move.
That's what you
That's
gotta do.
true. It's a white marlin invitation.
And then we made the blue marlin the second largest prize, and then tuna last because it's a marlin tournament. Begrudgingly to some of the guys up there who, they're hardcore tuna guys, and Beach Haven's always been a hardcore tuna place. It's actually the home of Captain Tom Jones, who we're inducting in the IGFA Legendary Captain's Hall of Fame, and he's a Beach Haven guy that started the bluefin tuna fishery on the East Coast. He's the guy that really caught the first ones repeatedly and figured out the tackle and how to do it. And so Beach Haven's always kind of been that kind of place. But anyway, we made these changes. We introduced a release category, which we're all in with our money and everything. And next year we'll definitely be all release blue marlin. And I'm pushing hard to make it an all release white marlin tournament too. Put all the money in it. And
all release.
Yeah, man, let's go. If you're going to be doing it, let's do it right.
I like it.
Be the first one, and that's our good buddy Mike Myatt from Papa's said, if you're going to do something, be a leader, and that really stuck with me. And I was like, it makes sense. And the tournament struggled.
Mike's great for driving that kind of stuff home.
Well, and it made sense because when we did it, and I kept telling the guys, look, if we do this, we will get partners. We'll have people that want to be a part of the tournament, and we did. We got Penn came along with us, and Berkeley Pro Spec. All of a sudden people started doing things. We got the IGFA to come, and we did the first satellite tagging program in a tournament of any size for white marlin, and we were able to get 3 tags in white marlin, and we have 2 more to put out. It's not during the tournament, but we'll get them put out under the banner of the Beach Haven White Marlin tournament. So that's exciting because that's the really the largest data collection opportunity for white marlin in the Mid-Atlantic. So we see where these things go, and we had other partners come in as well that, we had local restaurants. We had, all sorts of local people from town that, jumped in the bandwagon and became, partners with us. Scania, Diesel Engines, Mac Boring came in. They've been a sponsor for 52 years of the tournament. Every year they've been a sponsor.
52 years as a sponsor?
They have been a sponsor every year of the tournament.
That's impressive.
So they are really, really important partners for us. And, they caught some fish. They had a beautiful new 46 Viking billfish with their new 900 horsepower motors, and it really came together. Bo and I fished on the classic 42 Merit, the 1969 boat.
Oh, you did now?
We did.
Old school.
That sounds
and
lovely.
We went old school, and so it was. We were like going back in time, right? We were the oldest guys on the oldest boat.
It's said that Roy can take a look at any of those boats and tell you the whole number.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's all 18.
And it's also said that he can, and it's also said that when you buy a Merit, you don't really buy it. You're just borrowing it from Roy for a little bit.
It's true. You borrow it.
Yeah.
You insure it with him. He fixes them. He paints them. Does everything.
Right. When you're ready to sell it, he'll take it right back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was actually Buddy Merritt's boat. It was his uncle's boat, and that he took to Nova Scotia, to Newfoundland actually in 1969. And it's now called Picaflor. The Richardson family from Texas owns it. And we took it up the East Coast because we couldn't go to Portugal because of COVID and all this other stuff. And we just said, what are we going to do? And I said, well, let's go up the coast, do something different. And John said, hell, why not? So, we ate lobsters and crabs and had a good time. Did some fishing.
All right, time out. Time out. So how horrible is it that you say, we can't go to Portugal, what are we going to do? And then your alternative is to go up the coast and just eat lobster.
First world problems.
Doesn't suck, right?
It's you make the best of any situation, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, the tournament went off. We fished, and there was a big tuna caught at the end of the deal by one of our committee members, Jay Broward, and they came in at the last minute under the wire. 5 minutes to go. The whole thing, and the town square was full. We had all kinds of vendors there selling clothing and ice cream. My buddy Barry's doing me a flavor in Beach Haven on Center Street. He brought his little ice cream cart down there. They were selling ice cream to the kids, and it was just cool. It was just an old school family, fun, really neat deal.
I can't wait to get up there next summer.
And Beach Haven's a great venue for it. It's a
you ever been up there?
fishy old
Yeah,
town.
I've been up there a couple this year and then a couple of years ago.
Yeah?
Cool spot. It's funny, when I was walking around, I first went there, like watching American movies and when a kid in Australia, you kind of had your vision of what like certain things were like, and that was like what a seaside town is like. It's
quintessential
like the movies,
American
you walk around and go,
experience.
Yeah, it could be in the movies right here. No, it's beautiful. And it was like I said, Carl, it was a great tournament, good turnout.
Yeah.
A lot of good people there every day at the weigh-in. It was cool.
When I went up there for the Jimmy Johnson in Atlantic City, that was really my first exposure to that region of fishing.
Yeah.
And I was surprised at like the amount of huge tuna that were brought in and hung during
Yeah.
that tournament. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I kind of expected what I saw with the white marlin thing.
Yep. Big eyes.
Man, those big eyes
It's
are
been
big.
good the last couple of years, but I mean, it's not. I mean, it's the last couple of years have been exceptionally pretty
Yeah.
good for big eyes.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
big eye
You
fish.
know,
are the
it's
Is
best.
it not usually this consistent?
Well, it depends. I mean, every year's different. It varies. You know, some years there's a bunch of white marlin there. The white marlin numbers are big, and the tuna numbers aren't that big. Where last couple of years, it seems like it's been lots of tunas, and the white marlin numbers have been so. Not, you know, nothing hasn't been a real red hot white marlin fishing yet.
All
The
right.
season's still on. You know, September's usually the best time for numbers, so it could still go off. But it just seems the last couple of years there's been a lot of tuna around.
Yeah. Especially big
And
eyes.
blue marlins.
And there's guys that like are really good big eye fishermen. I mean, they know what's going on, and they're just really good at it. And there's guys they've really tuned into it, and they're successful because they're going all the time, and they've figured them out.
Yeah.
And you know, there's not always been a great yellowfin fishery up there. It's kind of been cyclical, but it's come back pretty good. And so you know, it's good.
And the
mixed bag.
fishing for muscular dystrophy
You know?
guys got a 112
Yeah.
pound yellowfin during
Yeah.
the Jimmy
Yeah.
Johnson. It's a
Thank
nice
you very
fish.
much.
You're welcome.
And you know, like I mean,
Yeah,
there's
sure.
Dorados, and we got lucky enough and won the biggest Dorado. So
Oh, you did?
Yeah, a whopper.
How big?
19 pounder.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, it worked. It worked. It worked.
We won the Fort Pierce, I can't remember what tournament it was, years ago with a 10.5 pound.
Yeah.
Just barely made the mahi. It was the only mahi caught in the whole tournament.
We
So,
laugh, you know.
yeah.
We always kid each other, but we're always like, man, you know, we don't fish many tournaments, so, you know, or I don't anyway. But you know, when we do, we seem to get in the ones that you know, aren't the big dollars and all that, but we scrape out a little bit of chicken feed every once in a while.
You never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Never know.
Bring it to the dock. You never know.
That's right.
So sometimes people think that that's strange, right? And you know what else is strange? Our strange questions
Strange questions.
from Papa's Pilar. So, Bo, you've never been on the show, so we have every segment. It's called our Papa's Pilar Strange Questions, and they are questions that come in from people that you may or may not know, and they're going to ask you a strange question, and we hope you answer it. So, and take it away, Carlene.
Gentlemen, this is for both of you. It's from Adrian Gray. Who was your fishing idol growing up?
Whew. I have several.
And just as a disclaimer, you can't say Dennis Friel because that wouldn't be fair.
Yeah.
So
Well, you're younger than me, so.
there you go.
You know, there's been different ones at different times, I guess. For me, anyway. But I have to say, I got to fish with some of them. So I think that's, for me, been the ultimate thing, to fish with the best. You know, Peter B. Wright. I mean,
It's a good one.
That was a big one. Charles Perry. Got to work the deck with Charles Perry for 8 tuna seasons in Cat Key and Bimini, and loved every minute of it. You know, I learned a lot from Charles. You know, not just about fishing and stuff, but about boat care and getting your job done and keep your head down and work. And, you know, Gary Stuve. I mean,
Yep.
You know, there was different stages in my career where you go through and you look at a guy and go, wow, man, I just like that guy is such a pro. You know, got to work.
Yeah, those are all great names.
Got to work.
Definitely.
Yeah, and
You got some big
yeah,
idols?
Yeah, well, yeah, probably. I mean, Karl mentioned Charles Perry, CP. He actually worked on my dad's boat. My dad had a mothership, the game boat on the reef back in the day, and CP worked with him for a few seasons, and so I got to I actually met CP when I was a kid, and I was also looking at photos of him, videos of him on dad's boat, wiring big fish. So he was definitely an idol. And then Billy Fairbairn, there's another Cairns crew. He's a really good fisherman. I actually got to fish a few seasons with him, and yeah, he was definitely one of my idols. And then as captains, a lot of good ones, but probably made an impression on me in my early years was Peter Wright, because I got to see him on the reef running his boat, and the way he drove that boat and driving on those fish and taking those fish quickly, it was pretty awesome to watch.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, he's
Yeah,
definitely
that's a good one.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a big one for me, or actually 2 big ones, really. If I had to name 2 for me, Jose Wehebe would be a big one for me. Just growing up in this area down in South Florida and down here, it's just uber idol, kind of status. And obviously, the way that his life ended wasn't ideal by any stretch of the means.
No.
But,
It's funny because I've had a lot of people speak very highly of him.
yeah.
You know, and I didn't really know, never saw his show or never really knew what he did, but every
That's
time his
always
name comes up, It's always
Yeah,
fucking high
100%.
off.
He was definitely a big innovator down here.
I got to build 2 boats for Jose, and it was we got along on that scale like really good. We thought the same way on how a boat should be set up for fishing,
Yeah.
and it was. And he was easy, you know. Like, I mean, you go to Key West, you go have dinner with Jose, you have lunch or whatever, and then we'd, you know, be at shows and we'd walk off and go have lunch and talk about boats and fish and everything. And he was just so dedicated to it and passionate, you know, and a good dude. I mean, fun, right?
Good
I mean,
dude.
Like,
Good,
you know,
down to earth and just one of the guys.
You know, and he could let loose at times, and he had a couple headaches. Run-ins with Jose, but that's part of the deal too, right?
Yeah, and I got to give one up to Skip too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Skip
Well,
Smith,
and
Skip Smith really,
Yeah.
you know, is really.
I didn't mean
Probably-
to skip out, but
Legend.
in light tackle stuff, Skip and Bart Garnsey. I mean, when I started to realize what light tackle fishing for big fish, no question, you know, you looked at what those guys were doing, you're like, holy mackerel! I mean, those guys can walk on water.
Yeah.
In my eyes, you know what I mean. I mean, that's
When
just, you know,
like growing up, Skip Smith was always like, you know,
for sure.
up on the hill to me, and then you know, getting the opportunity to then start working with him on the custom shootouts and doing the artwork for him and everything like that was just epic for me. And I don't. That's one of those words I never use until it's warranted. Like I hate when people say epic, epic, epic all the time. I only use that word when it's actually
really true.
needed, when it's really true. That was an epic experience for me.
You know what's interesting about those? Like I just sit here thinking about it, and when you said Skip, I shouldn't have let it go. But to me, Skip is one of those cerebral fishermen. He's always analyzing. Peter Wright, always analyzing. How can we prove it? How do we do this? Breaking things down. Bart Garnsey, data. How do we, analyzing. And I don't know. I think we do a lot of that. You know, like at the end of the day, it's kind of like watching the game films and going, okay, what are we doing? And taking in all this information to try and have a better day the next day. And you're just always working at it. That's what I look at, I guess.
You know who's like that now? Like really hardcore like that is Art Sapp.
Art Sapp, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
The results, the guy's unbelievable.
So Art Sapp comes on this show probably about once a month and a half, right? To do what we call our tournament talk episode. And it's really probably our most popular continual episode that we do. And people always want to tune in, like just like in the local area, they just want to hear like picks, like because he lets it out on the show. He really does. And he tells me, he goes, the reason I do this show with you, he goes, because he goes back and watches the episodes. Like, he'll go back and watch the previous sailfish season tournament talk in the next year to remember what happened, what the patterns were, because he talks about it all. And he does it to study himself. And then when he said that to me, I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, I thought you just came on to drink rum and have a good time.
What was good about Art is he never always said what was good. He always said like the bad things that happened to.
Right.
He'd own up to it if he didn't get the fish or something like that, or it was his fault in any way. He didn't put it on anybody else, or he did not say it. He would bring it to the table, address it, and then learn from it. And had no issue doing that, you know.
He just constantly studies and studies and studies and thinks and thinks and thinks.
He's very helpful. I mean, I don't know Art that well, but I mean, we know each other and everything. And we were fishing a tournament last winter, remember? And we were talking on the phone and going back and forth, and he was not in the tournament. He's like, man, might want to, and we ended up winning the thing. But he was willing to help and give information, to me. I mean, I'm not like one of his tight buds or anything.
I know,
He's a
but that's
great
another
guy.
great thing about
He's a-
Art is that he knows who you are.
Great guy.
And if you've got the respect and the credibility, so he's gonna just.
Well, yeah. I mean, if he
let
called
you
me,
have it.
I'd be
Yeah.
like, "Here's what I got," and I did.
Yeah.
I'd like, here's what I see. Here's what's going on, and you got to share. You
Yeah.
got to share.
Yeah.
And he's out there every day too.
Every day.
Every day.
He charters. I mean, it's
Yeah.
smart
He's
the way
the
he
man.
does it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Between tournaments, he's out there chartering, so he's always
Yeah.
seeing the water, seeing
Totally
the
dialed in.
conditions.
Yeah. He
Yep.
knows, right? He's totally dialed in all the time,
Yeah.
and he pays attention.
just obsessive about it.
Yeah.
Like really,
Yeah.
and a great guy on top of it.
Yeah.
So, so we are still in the strange question segment. So just so you know, I know we can tend to get sidetracked.
Okay.
And I have a feeling that from this point on, the questions seem to get a little squirrelier, right?
After a little bit, yeah. So what's the most gear you've ever brought abroad? This one's for Karl. What's the most gear you've ever bring for a fishing abroad shoot with Mark Sosin?
What's
Most gear you have brought abroad for a film, fishing a film?
This
How are we
is
gonna say
Adrian
this, right?
asking, right?
so So the classic joke is I shot Mark Soson's show for a little while. I was, my degrees in radio, television, and film, and I did a lot of work. Actually, shot the Quest for Giant Tarpon show in Homosassa with Stu App back in, 1989 or 90, and we won a Telly Award for it. It's great. I was the second camera and underwater camera guy.
So anyway. I want to pause there for a second and also make that clear, to people listening and watching, not only catching, but you have an accomplished career in creating footage and content.
Yeah.
With the best, the legends.
Yeah, Rick Murphy was the guide. Stu was the angler. I did a show, in 1988. I did the Australia's Great Barrier Reef Trip of a Lifetime for Ed Murray, and that was on fishing with Peter B. on the Dyfkin, and a lot of other stuff. But anyway, at any rate, so the most gear, we the classic story is Mark he was in the industry for a long time, and his garage is like the most ultimate tackle shop and antique stuff. I mean, he's got everything, and we had to always use sponsor gear, so we always had just cases upon cases of not only camera gear and all the stuff we needed, but fishing tackle. And I mean, when I went to Australia by myself, I had 13 cases in 1989. When we went with Mark, we would have 20.
Really?
25. Oh, we had tackle bags, rod cases. I mean, stuff. I mean, we had everything to do anything, and he was always prepared in that way, and that was the job. I mean, I was more like a pack mule than anything else because you're constantly moving this stuff around, and I got to fish a little bit too. We caught one on a cigar one time. We were sitting there and somebody made a comment, oh man, we could catch that fish on anything, and Marks goes, I could catch one on that cigar, and somebody goes, no way. I said, give me that cigar. I rigged up a cigar, put it on one try.
Oh wait, you're an actual cigar?
An actual cigar.
I thought you were talking the slang for cigar minnow.
No, an actual cigar.
Actual cigar.
Mark would always have a big stogie, and so I rig up the cigar, and we raise a fish. I tease him up. Mark throws it in there. Fish piles on and jumps, and tobacco goes everywhere. I was like, it's just fucking big cloud of tobacco. And anyway, we did stupid stuff like that. It's funny.
Nice.
Yeah.
Carl, has anybody mistaken you for Chris Farley?
Yes.
Again, Adrian.
Yes.
I don't live in a van. I don't live in a van down by the river, but close. Pretty close.
Sorry, I had to let that one in.
And another one from Tiny. Which would you trust more, leftover ostrich pizza or a one-armed man named Ben, an African one-armed man named Ben?
I'd eat the pizza over the one-armed bandit. He was one of the dodgiest guys ever.
So it was Ben. This the guy that killed the goat?
No, Ben was the houseboy that worked for us in Ghana, that managed the house.
In Ghana.
Yes.
All right.
And he was we call him one-armed bandit because he didn't have one arm. They cut his arm. Well, he told he lost his arm in a trotro accident, but we found out that I guess in Ghana, if you get caught 3 times, they cut your arm off.
3 times
stealing.
what?
Sorry, stealing.
Stealing?
And he got caught. He was working with this guy. He got caught third time, and they took him out the back and chopped his arm off with a machete.
Come on.
And it's obviously the doctors over there didn't fix it that well. I mean, it's healed, but the bone still sticks up out like that. So whenever he goes like this and waving his arm, this bone is going wiggling around, and you can't not look at the bone. You're trying to look at him and be serious, but
it's a chicken wing.
So distracted by the bone.
Are you kidding me?
No. Yeah, and he
was
stealing
money.
He was taking money off us for a while, stealing it. So then we got rid of him. Fired him,
You
thankfully.
didn't cut his other arm off?
Yeah, I was just
Wait, you got caught stealing so much. Someone cut your arm off, and you still kept jacking
He was
shit.
still stealing. Oh,
really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So he stole from you too?
Tiny was the one that was onto it first. He realised it. And he came to Clay and I was like, he's ripping us off, and then we caught him for it and got rid of him.
It's just
Are
a
you
minor
kidding
flesh
me?
wound.
No, he didn't learn.
You stole so many times
Right.
that you had your arm cut off, and you still kept stealing?
That's
Jesus,
Hey,
Ben.
hey, look at the government.
Hey.
Shit.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good point. Good point. Hold on. Time out for a second. Time out for a second. Ben. Okay? So, all right. He was your houseboy. What does this mean?
Well, pretty much like he managed the house for the guy who owned it, and then when we rented it to when we started fishing out of there, he came with the house. So he was like he would and then when we
By no choice of you, he just came with the
No,
house.
pretty much, yeah. It's like he works for the house, so he works for you guys now.
Okay.
So yeah, he worked for us, and he would run errands for us and
Grocery
do
getter.
the shopping and slowly put the cash in his pocket.
Kill the goats.
Killed it. Nah, he might have been gone by the goats. I think
All right.
he was gone. We got rid of him.
All right. I'm good. Sorry, Carlene.
It's okay. I'm going to read this one word for word. So I know I slipped up in the last one. This one's from Dave Wittenberg. This is for Karl.
All right. Yeah. Got to read that one slow.
We'll read this one slow and word for word.
Right.
Is your biggest pet peeve when people leave skid marks in the head? Or is it when people leave skid marks in the head? And why is it when people leave skid marks in the head?
Acquiring minds want to know.
That's what mates are for. Yeah.
Dave was adamant about this.
Clean up after yourself. Come on. And don't go downstairs and puke in the toilet. Don't do that to the mates and the crew. Throw up overboard and clean up after
I'd rather
yourself.
skid marks in the head than chicken skin on the teeth. Because at least you can scrub the skid mark off.
True story.
You have to scrub the whole deck.
Yeah. Yeah, when the fried chicken comes out, please somebody get the hose out. Hose the teak off first. Jesus, don't let, because then we got to clean the teak again. But yeah, skid marks, yeah.
All right. That's your pet peeve?
So.
Well, no.
What's your pet peeve then? What's your biggest pet peeve? I can tell you what mine is.
I don't know. What do you think, Bo? What would you think? What bothers me the most? I don't even know. A lot.
I can tell you. You know what my biggest pet peeve is? Waiting in lines.
Carl gets mad if you don't put enough mayonnaise on his sandwich.
What?
Don't
Put
give me
enough mayonnaise
don't
on
give me
his
a dry
sandwich.
sandwich.
Yeah.
I don't like a dry
a
sandwich.
certain level of
goddamn.
mayo on there.
Give me some mustard. Give me some mayo. Don't give me a dry sandwich. God dang
you're
it!
particular.
I want a damn sandwich that's got some.
Is it
Stuff.
Miracle Whip or is it
Oh no,
Hellman's?
it's Hellman's
Okay,
and
it's
it's
gotta be
French's.
Hellman's.
In a van down by the
French's
river.
mustard. Damn right. Yeah, and hopefully bring me a beer at the end of the day, so when we're riding in, I can chill out a little.
All right. I hate waiting in lines. I feel like just like you're
Waiting
just
in
wasting
lines-
your life.
Yeah, waiting in lines is bad.
This is why I don't like going to Disney with my kids.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Because
not
I'm just like, I'm going to spend $100 a head to go and just wait in lines all day.
I don't have a lot of patience, so yeah,
Yeah. All right. Well, this is the end of our strange questions. So thank you, Carlene.
Thanks, Carlene.
That's all.
Right. And usually we pick a winner to send a T-shirt to, but so we'll send a T-shirt to all those guys.
Yeah.
So they're all
They
winners
were
in
all
our
good,
book.
They were all
right?
good questions. Yeah.
Especially my good buddy Adrian Gray. Right, so.
Adrian always has good ones. He had good ones the last time we were.
Yeah.
I was here. Yeah.
So shout out to Adrian. Love you, brother. All right,
the
cool.
guy.
So listen, we were talking about the Beach Haven and the Mid-Atlantic stuff, right?
Yep.
I know that before the show we had talked about wiring fish and all these other kind of things that you wanted to kind of get into, and we can. So by all means, take it away.
So like, when you're running a boat and you're going to places where you have a shot at really good fish and quality fish, the chain's only as strong as the weakest link.
Mm-hmm.
And in my case, that's usually me. But if I hire great guys like Bo, then I know that we can put it together. And
She made that one a little strong.
That's all right.
So
It's my girl.
when it comes to going somewhere, that's kind of what makes a good drink. Anyway, Bo is the guy you want in the cockpit. As I, when I think about stuff like that, and when I know I'm going to do something or fish a tournament and everything, I mean, Bo's zipping around down there. He knows what to do. He's fast and everything. But when it comes to getting a quality fish on, and you need somebody that knows what's going on, pulling on it, you've got to have the right guy. Because if the guy doesn't know what he's doing and he's trying to wire a fish, a lot of things can go wrong. And that's usually where the fish is lost, at the end game. And you can't take a chance. So, you always want to fish with your friends. And, I'm lucky enough to fish with Bo a lot. And I know I got the best in the cockpit that there is. And he's the guy. I mean, go on YouTube and type in Bo Jenyns wiring blue marlin, and it's like a never-ending thing. You could sit there for 4 hours watching him wire fish, and it's incredible. Very talented guy.
I got to say one thing. We are actually, and this is going to make sense, We are actually transforming the format of the show. We're going to be part of the Waypoint Network soon, right? And the reason I bring this up is that we're kind of like redesigning like the logo of the show a little bit, because we're like, if we're going to redesign it, we're going to redesign it now, right? Because before we transfer into this new format with Waypoint, get on board with them, everything like that, I'm not going to do that in the middle of that. I'm going to do it now while we transfer everything over, right?
Right.
So I'm starting to think, I'm like, man, we talk more about big game on this show than inshore stuff like that. Although I have a passion for inshore, we all do, right? We're just natural anglers, all of us, right? A fish is a fish is a fish is a fish, right?
Yep.
And really, at the end of the day, you just want to think like it and get a hold of it and master it. But really, big game is the focus of this show. It really is. Like, most of the guys we bring on are just like big game, world class guys that are just the best of the best. So we're putting that an element of that in our brand for the new show. So I wanted to bring that up and just to mention to you, like, this is like the creme de la creme of what we want to discuss, right? At the end of the day. And I kind of explained to you before we started the show that it's not really a fishing show. It's more just like a bunch of guys getting together that actually we all fish, and we just talk about whatever. Fishing is inevitably going to arise, or conversations about it, and here we are, right? And so I want to kind of just drive home the point that when it comes to what he just kind of set you up with, this is really what, life's all about, right? Is that big fish, that big blue, that big tuna, that, those big game fish that you on the deck and you're just like, right?
Yeah, well, I think it's it's kind of the the ultimate test in our sport is taking a big fish, getting it in the boat. These days it's become a lot about releases and numbers, and kind of gone away from the catching big fish like we used to be. But I still think that's the ultimate test, for how good you think you are at this. Try to take that big green fish, see how good you really are.
No doubt.
Your life path has been this.
Yeah, I've based my career around chasing big areas where you catch big fish.
Yeah.
Fishing for big ones, for sure.
Why?
I just like the challenge of going for catching the biggest fish. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with catching small billfish. They're a lot of fun, but they're just not really much of a challenge. You're catching them especially these days. When I was a kid, we used to use, 12 and 16 pound. Now everyone uses 30-pound line. Most of it slightly over test, and you're catching fish that aren't much bigger than the line class. Yeah. So it's just not really that challenging. Where I like trying to catch a fish, an 8 or 9 or 1,000-pound fish on a 130. The tackle I think is matched well to the fish, and it's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like about it.
Truth behold, size matters.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
In many things,
I completely missed that.
size does matter.
Oh, size does. Oh, I can see why you don't want to repeat that. Isn't she the best?
Of course.
She is. So we prefer our bartenders to understand everything about the world of world-class fishing, and she certainly does. Carlene, please tell me, right, who is your biggest inspiration growing up fishing? Can you answer that question for us? You can't say Dennis Friel.
Because it's funny, because I started out lake bass fishing when I was a kid. I used to fly fish, do a little trout fishing out in Jackson Hole, stuff like that, go to Montana and everything. Then I had worked my way up through the, crewing on boats, and that got me to be on deck, and then started fishing, like, I can make a living fishing. And then I had some really good opportunities, actually, where I met you.
That's right.
I met you up north catching some big bluefins, and I fished with some of the top guys there. Don't need to mention any names or so, but we know a couple gentlemen up there that fish. And It's funny because actually Mr. Roberts, James Roberts, is one of the guys that's funny because he's yelling at you. He's like, yeah, yelling. I'm like, whoa, and that's what he does is he yells at you. Well, the next day around we're fishing again, and he's not yelling. I'm like, well, but it's when he's yelling at you, it makes the adrenaline starts going. It's part of the, it gets you in the chair. It's part of the deal. And the next day he's like, wasn't yelling. I was like, did I do something? He's like, no, you listened. He didn't have to yell at me the next day because I took the technique that he gave me and I implemented it to the next day fishing, and we caught more granders and however it went about. And that was just like a really good, just sit back and see who I was sitting with, and then realize I was like, this is a really, really good trip. Yep. So that's not, that was a good moment in time too there, and then it's just escalated, for more big game fishing kind of style from then on out, I'd say.
Nice.
So
How big was that fish we harvested that year? Was it like 8 something?
I actually got a photo of that. I think it was I know it was 80 wide by like 122, if
Yeah.
I can remember correctly.
Yeah, it's a nice fish.
I definitely got a photo of it, and when we dressed it and everything like that. But there was a couple that swam through that were pretty big. and it
Yeah,
was-
we had some other ones that were I remember saying that one's a bust. That one's that, and he didn't come back around, but which they usually do. But anyway, we did harvest a nice one that year for the guy that owned the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, that's nice.
I don't really
Nice.
know. It's a good question. I got to think about that. It's more of an experience because I had different styles of fishing. It's more the different experiences that I've had that really.
I think that's the unique. You know what? I'm glad you brought that up with the styles, because I want to ask you a question, right? And I think we've discussed this before too, and I want to see if you can maybe shed a light on this, or maybe even confirm it or deny it, right? But we raise a question on this show a lot about South Florida, Pompano. It's kind of like a mecca for fishing, right? And what I mean by that is,
Hillsborough Inlet is like iconic.
yeah, so if you go all over the world to these great fishing spots, Madeira, Los Sueños, Panama, right? Chances are you're going to find someone from Pompano there.
Yeah.
Right?
Florida guys are spread far and wide.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, look
Well, you mean just this area? Yeah.
throughout the time too, because look at Obie O'Brien, Peter Wright, Bart Garnsey.
Skip.
I mean, Skip Smith. Well, Skip was Fort Lauderdale, but
Well, I
same
mean,
same area, same
yeah,
kind of
same
thing.
area.
But I mean, as you're coming through, I mean, back in the day, the Hillsborough Inlet guys, they were the ones in Cat Key because of the Merritts. You had Buddy and Alan Merritt. I mean, Alan Merritt's the king of Cat Key, no matter what anybody says. He fished the tournament 12 times. He placed in at 11 and won 7 of them or something. Or I mean,
Yeah.
like something ridiculous.
Yeah.
I know it, but I can't remember. Anyway, so yeah, Hillsborough Inlet, Pompano, for sure. And it's funny, like I ended up here, but I mean, I don't consider myself one of those guys. But I got
but
to
you're
fish
here.
But I got to fish out.
You've
of
been here a
Stewart.
long time.
Yeah, fished out of Stewart for a long time. I always have crappy inlets. Beach Haven Inlet sucked. Then I go to Stewart. That's not a great inlet. Then I come here. It's not so great.
That's St. Lucie.
Like St. Lucie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I never had the big, wide, nice, easy inlet.
You know,
I always had a bar I had to run across.
so I guess what we talk about, and listen, I hate to beat this to death, and I do. Like Justin's over there giving me the thumbs up. Like, I do, right? But I guess it's pride, a little bit of pride talking, right? But it's just really kind of like I'm kind of noticing, like, what other place in the world? There are probably other places. There are other places in the world that a lot of great anglers come from. A lot of accomplished anglers come out of. But if you look at Pompano, and I'm going to include all of South Florida in this conversation because you talk about the innovation of the things that with the planer fishing and with the kites fishing and the things that happened here, the daytime sorting and everything like that, right? It all
The
from
split
here.
tail mullet came from here.
Yeah. And so what's your perspective as a guy from Australia that now lives here on that kind of idea? And I want the honest truth. Like, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong.
I mean, I think there's
And I know there's a lot of great anglers that come from a lot of great
all over,
places.
but for sure,
I'm talking about
obviously,
pound for pound kind of thing.
South Florida is like you could kind of call it the hub of really the sports fishing world. I mean, if you look at what goes on in the sports fishing world, a lot of stuff goes through Florida, comes out of here. I mean, it's a real central location for it. And as far as the fishermen goes, I think there's like you're talking about the Keys all the way up to Stewart. Even further north from there. I mean, you got a lot of good fishermen, but I think benefits Florida is a lot of good other fishermen have come from other places and come into Florida and
It's a good point.
the local guys and helped them a lot out as well.
It's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up,
a lot of
actually.
guys from North Carolina, when guys started in their own little areas, they would just fish their own areas, and then guys started to travel and go over and do tournament, like Texas guys would come here, or Florida guys would go to Texas, North Carolina guys would come down here for the winter, they go on the boat, go to Eastleigh, and then the guys started traveling. So I think once that happened, and it gets more and more every year, you see
sharing
it amongst
the sharing
fishermen
of information.
and that's huge.
It's an outstanding take on that, because that's not something that I would always comment on. But that's the amount of people that come here from other places too. It's really, really, that's true, right? And information is king at that point, and
Always.
you're taking influences and different things from other players. It's good. I like that. We made some progress on the topic today with that comment.
That's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bo knows.
Yeah, Bo knows.
Bo knows.
Bo knows. So there are a few other things that you wanted to kind of bring up today, right? You got the wiring thing.
So wiring technique and stuff, and Bo, learned from Charles Perry pretty much and other guys, but probably you taught yourself by doing it, right?
Yeah, I taught
Billy
myself.
Fairburn?
I was lucky to get a lot of chances to wire fish.
Mm-hmm.
So like on heavy leader, and some nice fish. So early on the reef, so I got a lot of experiences to grab a heavy leader and pull on and feel like what a fish can do on the leader and how to control them. And yeah, I was lucky. I got some training early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something that kind of worries me. Is this is something else on the topic is these days everyone's fishing really light leader. They're dink bait fishing with 80-pound fluoro, sometimes lighter. And that's all these guys get to pull on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, occasionally the fish will eat the lure or they'll pitch it a 50 and have it on a heavier leader. But a lot of fish they're catching on the light tackle and they just, you see them, they get the leader and they get a couple of wraps and it breaks off. They're not getting to get the experience to learn how to pull on leader.
Right.
Because everyone's, doing the dink bait fishing these days, which is fine. I get it, it works effective, but it's kind of taken the wyman out of the game a little bit.
Yeah, a
When
little
you
bit,
used to,
right? When you get a couple wraps and then the guy pops off, and then you're like,
breaks
hey,
off
we caught the fish.
And the fact that you're not taking fish. Because, again,
Right.
the end game is where it'll have and like Peter B was always adamant, like, if we're going to let him go, we have to get a tag in it to count it. And he did that so that there was control of the fish next to the boat. And if you did have to take one, you had a better shot. It was as close as you could get to taking one, right? Thank you. And that whole window of experience is diminished because we're so focused on release, which I'm all in, but taking a fish is it's another game. I mean,
Taking a fish is another game.
you got to put the gaff in one, man.
Yeah.
Better have your stones ready, and if it's
Right.
a nice one, and you better be ready to hold on, and if
You better
especially
have some
green,
help.
when he's green, and that's why you need a guy like Bo on the wire to be
Yeah.
able to to be able to get the fish there and have control of the fish next to the boat. And like for a guy driving, like I do now, I know that if I can put him in the right place, we got a better shot at taking that fish. If I got somebody that doesn't know how to wire, I'm like, oh shit, get the gaff in.
Hey, I mean, just to put it into perspective, because, you throw around numbers. Oh, we caught a 600 and something marlin, or we caught it was a 400-pound marlin, or it was 8 grander, right? All right. Put 800 pounds in front of you in this room right now, and see what you do with it.
It's like a Volkswagen.
Yeah.
That's a lot of weight.
It's a big animal.
800 pounds.
And totally-
1,000 pounds.
And totally unpredictable.
And moving. Yeah.
Yeah. And you got a boat moving too, so
Now, I understand it's in water.
and a
And I
planet.
understand it's buoyant and all that, but you got to control that thing and put that thing on the deck. I mean, even if it's tired and done, that's still a 800, 1,000 pounds.
Dead when it comes
of
up,
meat.
It's really even, that dead weight coming up.
Dead weights, yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. Like,
Well, and then
it's work, man.
and
Oh,
then
yeah.
pull them in the boat.
And pull them in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
boat.
Because a
the
lot of
boat, yeah.
boats today aren't made to pull them in the boat.
Not
Right.
for-
The door is,
no.
a foot and a half over the water line. The door's too small. It's not made right. The door doesn't, the boat builders haven't done a good job of getting that
So
right.
about,
Are you
man.
communicating that to them?
I am. I'm definitely communicating it to them. They haven't a clue.
Who's doing it the best right
They haven't
now?
a clue. Roy Merritt. Still to this day. I mean,
you
he's
look at the merit, and it doesn't matter whether it's 37 foot or 86 foot. That door is the same size
Yeah.
Yeah.
on every boat.
Yeah.
They build them to pull big tunas in the boat. I mean,
and
they're built
it's
for it.
close to the water. The way that Roy does the tuna doors now, even on the big boats, it's like you can still get them in. And then you get on other boats and you go, how in the hell are you? I mean, I watched some guys.
There for show.
I watched some guys in Bermuda in 2007. They caught a grander, and they were like an hour and a half trying to figure out how to get it in the boat. They had no idea. The tuna door just, like they didn't have a strap to hold the tuna door open. The tuna door was way too high. It was too small. wasn't big enough. I mean, it was just a circus. Like we threw him over our face gaff. You know, with face gaff is a hook. You put it in the fish, and then you tie it up his bill, and then you got something else more, and and then you have a different way to try and get leverage. And on really, really big fish, if you're smart, you got a little ball and you tie that on his tail to float his tail up, and otherwise his tail's falling down. There's a lot of technique and a lot of tools, right, that are available to kill fish. But if the boat, if you can't get them in the boat, I mean, that's why the Merritt boats and the early Ryboviches, and still Michael still does a good job too. His new boat that I saw, it's right, but those boats were made to kill fish, and crews that ran them told them what they needed, and you had Buddy was, they were pulling fish in the door now, and they didn't have to work hard at it. They wanted it to be easy and done right. That's why it was designed that way, and there's a lot of boat builders that have no idea how to do it. So
they're probably more focused on releasing fish and taking in smaller tuna.
Yeah, and and the people that are on those boats maybe aren't necessarily trophy hunting for big fish, right?
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
It's more important to
the few of the proud, right?
Have drink holders and stuff. That's
Yeah.
Have a bunch of flags.
Not
on
a
the
slight.
rigger.
Not a slight. But I'm not.
No.
I'm just saying-
Yeah,
just saying in
listen.
general.
There's the one thing this show is not about.
Yeah.
Is about throwing anyone under the bus
Yeah.
or gotcha questions.
Yeah, no,
I really, and I've always said that from day one. Like this is just a bunch of people hanging out, drinking and talking. It's a fishing show, or it's a fishing show that's not about fishing.
Yeah.
Right, something like that. Right, so
Any boat with the right guys on it is going to catch a ton of fish. You can.
Yeah, right.
That's
Zodiac or whatever.
the boat's the tool, right?
Yeah.
But the boat doesn't know how to rig, doesn't know how to find them, doesn't know how to. The boat just gets you there. It's a vehicle to get you there.
Yeah.
And what you do with it when you get there is the difference.
And you go back to the old man in the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah, 87 days in the little wooden boat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Biggest marlin anyone's ever seen in their lives. So the story goes.
And it's a good story.
Yeah.
It's a good story.
So listen, gentlemen, let's raise a glass.
Skull.
Skull. I love it. I've been watching The Last Kingdom there, and I'm getting my Viking on. So I want to thank you guys for coming in today. Bo, pleasure meeting you.
Always, man.
Right?
Thanks for having
Because
me.
I always love when I meet someone for the first time on the show. That's why I like when you come in, and I'm like, I don't talk to you. Like, I want all that to be fresh for the show.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Yep.
I appreciate it, man. You did a great job today. So cool.
Nice.
Carlene,
Carlene, thanks for the great
Thanks,
rums.
Colleen.
love you.
Thanks
Awesome.
for
Thank you.
having me. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Justin, solid. He's laughing when I say that. It's moving dolls. Carl,
Thanks, buddy. Thanks
seriously,
for the help with
I
everything.
appreciate your time, my
Appreciate
friend.
it, and we'll,
Always do.
We'll have a good time on the 53rd.
Yep, absolutely,
For sure.
100%. I want to remind everybody that if you're in the market for a new vehicle, particularly a Ram truck
Or a Jeep.
Actually, I am.
or a Jeep,
Yeah.
are you really?
Yeah, Bo is.
Well, then you're in luck.
My truck died yesterday, so
You've come to the right place.
Bo's got a vehicle problem.
All right,
Yeah.
head on over to Joey Cardi Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Talk to my boy Dean. Tell him I sent you.
Okay.
If you do, you might get a better deal than most people will. I'm just
At least he'll talk to you about
At least he'll talk to you. Yeah, at least he'll
Yeah.
you know.
it. And don't forget
Oh,
to try
we cannot
the
forget.
papa.
the greatest rum on salt water.
1,000%.
Pops-
We had my aunt and my sister from California came in today, and they had yet to try the sherry cask. And I just poured them straight shots right in the plastic cups, and they said, "Wow, that is fantastic."
Yeah.
And I said, "It's true." And a lot of people don't realize that the unique thing about Papa's Pilar rum is that it is housed in bourbon and aged in bourbon
Yeah.
casks
and
in
this
barrels.
is sherry cask.
This is the sherry cask that we are in, and we are loving it. So
Great partner for the Beach Haven tournament as well.
1,000%.
And, yeah,
Yep.
fun people, conservation oriented, and they do a great job.
Very conservation oriented, and they remind you never to be a spectator, and they are keeping the Hemingway tradition alive.
Papa would be proud.
Absolutely. We want to give a shout out to Papa's Raw Bar as well. They have the Connected by Water sushi menu right down the street here in Lighthouse Point,
Great spot.
which we are proud
That's a good spot.
to be associated with our synergistic family.
Great spot.
We want to give a shout out to ACR. And what we always say every episode, and I'm going to say it again because I cannot drive this home enough with people. If you've left the inlet and you're on a boat and you don't have your EPIRB on board, turn your boat around,
And
go back to shore, get your EPIRB, and then head back out.
Get an EPIRB.
Yeah,
Save
absolutely.
your life.
And our folks at ACR are the best.
Especially when you're fishing up in the mid-Atlantic and you're offshore 60, 80, 100 miles. You got to have all your safety gear ready. It's no joke. It is no joke.
So, Justin, you got your mic on because I wanted you to feature the new product that they talk about.
Yeah, now they've got kind of a competitive product with like Spot and Garmin and stuff like that. It's called the Bivy. It basically allows you to enjoy two-way text communication while you're out there. It's not just the stuff has hit the fan anymore. Now you can have that functionality.
Which would be an SOS button.
Exactly.
Right.
They have an SOS button with it. But then you can also one-button check-in and then track, share your location, stuff like that. Pretty cool.
That is cool.
So it's kind of cool, too, because not only for offshore stuff, but if you're down in, like, Flamingo,
yes,
and there's spots in there that you get no reception.
Absolutely.
And your wife's like, hey, when are you coming home for dinner?
Absolutely.
You can say, I don't know who you are. What are you talking about?
Hey, listeners, there's been a lot of times when those kind of things have come in to save somebody.
There's spots here in
And,
Oakland Park where I can't get reception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's by design.
Yeah.
Wives aside.
Yeah, right. So, do we leave anyone out? Are we rolling? If you, the Papamigos over here. You want to set up? You want to get yourself some sushi tacos, and also if you want to get something, go to shop.cvboats.com. We are featuring the Friel collection from CV Boats. So get yourself some fine CV gear that we designed and produced and distributed to you.
Very cool.
So we good? And we want to give a shout out to our pal. Just remind me, it's like you're talking about these guys. We were proud to be part of the Maui Gym and Olakai Ohanas. So we want to give a shout out to those guys. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming in today.
Thanks for having
we
us.
appreciate your time, and I'm sure we'll continue this up at the Pilar Bar for more rum drinking and fish storytelling. So, all right, your ego is not your amigo. Always do your best, and at the end of the day, just remember to let God do the rest, and don't ever forget that no matter where we are, even if we're in Australia, right? No matter what we're doing,
We are
always
connected by water.
thank you, gentlemen.
Cheers.